Hello and welcome to LyfeTalk Health. My name is David Zick. Up until now, we've been talking about basic principles when it comes to biblical health and a biblical diet. Remember, we said that this particular diet is not about a set of rules of what you eat and what you do not eat. This diet, a biblical diet, is about transformation. It's about changing the way that you think about food in total. And that's why last time we talked about why we eat. And we talked about the fact that we need food for energy, but we also talked about the fact that there's a lot of things that we eat just because they look good, they smell good, and they set off the right receptors in our tongues. The Bible says, though, that taking care of ourselves and our physical health is really important. And so our key text throughout all these studies has been the third epistle of John, the second verse, where it says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." The apostle is very clear. I wish above all things that you would be healthy. Why to be healthy? Because when you're not healthy, then you suffer from disease. The very word comes from the fact that you are not at ease, to be at dis-ease. You're not at ease. Your body is not doing well. And when you are in a condition of disease, when you are not healthy, when you haven't taken care of yourself, then there are so many other things going on in your life to take care of this health that you don't dedicate sufficient resources to taking care of your spiritual well-being and your spiritual character development. This is why the apostle says, I want you to be careful of your health. I want to make sure that you are in good physical health. The very first element then to understand in health is nutrition. And over the next couple of little video clips that we're going to have together, we're going to talk about nutrition, because this is the key element to dieting. A lot of people have misunderstood dieting and exercise. And when they decide that they're going to go on a diet, they start thinking about all kinds of exercise plans that they're going to do. What kind of workouts they're going to do, how much they're going to bench press, how much they're going to run, how much they're going to do all these different kinds of physical activities, because the more physical activities they do, that means they're going to lose more weight. The fact is that when it comes to dieting, nutrition is the key to weight loss. It is much more important than the exercise we're going to talk about later. Exercise is important, but to a much smaller degree than nutrition. And since the American diet, or the Western diet, if you want to call it that, has now really become something that's being transported all around the world, we're seeing the waistlines of people increasing. We are doing less physically, but ultimately, this gain is because of the type of food that we are eating. The food we're eating is generally processed. It is generally very heavy. It is calorie-dense food. And because of this, we're going to need to take a look at a couple of things that we eat and the way that we eat them. In order to understand nutrition then, what we want to do is to make sure that we understand the labels on the food that we're eating. The vast majority of you who are watching, you're not buying your food at the farmer's market. I know there are farmer's markets, but the majority of you are not eating there. You are buying your food from a grocery store, from a large corporation, which has pre-packaged your food. Fortunately for us, they do provide us with a certain amount of information which is going to help us. Today, we're going to look at the first line of nutrition facts that comes on the food that you actually are eating. This is pasta. For a vegetarian, one of the favorite foods. It's very calorie-dense food. It's got a lot of carbs in it. And we eat a great amount of pasta. Now, this particular pasta here, according to this container, has 200 calories per serving. That's the first line, and that's the line we want to focus on today. There's 200 calories per serving in this pasta. But according to this, a serving size is 2 ounces. It's about yay much pasta. And this says that there's actually 8 servings within this container. for me, at my height and weight, as a male, at this particular height that I am, at my body type and build, in order for me to burn off this amount of calories, this 200 calories that I'm going to have from eating only 2 ounces of this pasta, I would have to run at 7 minutes sustained, I would have to run for 14 minutes at a sustained 7 miles an hour in order to burn off the excess calories that I've eaten from these 2 ounces of mezzapenne pasta. I want you to think about that for a moment. In order for me to burn this off, I have to run for 14 minutes at 7 miles an hour. Now, here we go back to the exercise point. What about walking? I've heard a lot of times people say, well, walking and running is the same thing because you're carrying the same weight over the same distance that's basically going to give you the same caloric burn. Not correct. When you run, you actually change your center of gravity much more than when you walk because you don't simply move your feet forward in the same way. You lift them, and that jumping motion on your feet causes your center of gravity to change. And so for men, when you're running, you actually change that center of gravity a lot. For women too, to a slightly smaller extent. But for men, you're going to change your center of gravity. And since you're doing that so often as you're running, you actually do burn more calories running than walking. If I want to burn this off then, I'm going to have to run sustained 7 miles an hour for 14 minutes to burn that off. And that's just a small portion because what I'm actually going to do with this pasta is I'm going to cover it in some kind of sauce, cream, cheese. I'm going to eat other things with it. In order to burn off just the pasta portion of my meal, I'm going to spend such a large portion of time doing that that I have to consider whether or not it's worth it for me to eat this food. Next time we're going to talk about whether it's worth it from its nutrient perspective. But simply looking at the calories in food is the first thing that you need to be doing, especially with processed foods. The fact is, it's not just this. We're eating between our meals as well. And when we eat between meals, we are not eating that. When we're doing this between meals, we're eating stuff like this. Let's take a look at this one here. This is one of America's classic favorites, potato chips. It's a simple snack. This is what most people consider to be a personal size. It's something small. It's something that you and I could eat real fast. I don't have any sweet tooth. I'm probably not going to fall for the chocolate. If you say, Dave, here's the chocolate. You want to eat the chocolate? I'm probably going to be able to resist the temptation because I don't really have a sweet tooth. But when it comes to potato chips, it's a totally different story. I mean, I love this stuff. Every tooth in my mouth is a salty tooth. I want to eat this. The desire is still there for this. And as I'm looking at this, I say, well, it's a really small bag. So I look at the nutritional facts, and I look at the calories. It says that there's 160 calories inside this particular bag. 160 calories, I say to myself, that's not bad. At my height and weight, 160 calories is, let's do the math, 11 minutes. 11 minutes for me running at 7 miles an hour to burn this off. And I say to myself, I really love this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to run. I'm really going to run. I'm going to sustain 7 miles an hour as I run, and I'm going to do that for 11 minutes. Supposing that you can do that, you'd say, wow, that's pretty easy. But the fact is, I have to look a little bit closer at the label. It turns out that there isn't 160 calories in the bag. There's 160 calories per serving. And the company estimates that there are 3 servings in this bag. In reality, what they're saying is that 3 people should be able to eat from this bag, and that will sustain them. But the fact is that this is a personal bag. That's why you and I are probably going to finish this entire bag. Now, the numbers are different. in order for me to take the 460 calories that are in this bag and actually burn them off, I am going to have to run at a sustained 7 miles an hour for 34 minutes. Now, I'm not sure about you, but that is difficult for anyone to do. And probably something they're not going to do, which is why they're going to continue to have a little snack and continue to gain weight, regardless of the amount of exercise that they're doing. What I really want you to focus on then is to start taking account of what is the actual amount of calories that you're putting into your system. And when we get together next time, we're going to look at how many calories a person actually needs in order to be able to have a healthy body.